You, Commission. That was now in session. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Please call the roll.
Chairman Mayor Kennedy,
Here.
Alderman Bailey,
Here.
Commissioner Seligman,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson is excused, Commissioner Cohn.
Here.
Commissioner Story,
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Atwood.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Could I get a motion to adopt the minutes of our last meeting on January 2nd, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Cohn. Any corrections, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Adopted. We have one item of old business. This is the consideration now of scheduling a public hearing regarding the planned development district for Phoenix JCR to operate at 5055 North Lydell Avenue in a PD plan development district, mixed use development land use classification. This came before us once before. They've submitted new plans and are, I believe, back to us now with new plans. I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith to walk us through this particular item.
Oh, I'll punt this one to John. I'm not as familiar with the specifics on this one.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fellows.
This one works.
Perfect.
Good thing there's two over here. So 5055 North Lydell, you did see it. They came back in July. I think they also came once in December. They have since revised their plans that you saw in the summer, and they're starting through the process. They're essentially going to split the building. It's sort of an L-shaped building. They're going to split it into two buildings. The northern building, they're going to create into a white box for a future tenant. They're hoping that actually doing some work on the building will actually, allow them to secure a tenant better than as is. They are removing the two-story brick office building that's fairly close to Lydell. There's not really, as anyone knows, there's a lot of office space on the market, so that's not something that's easily leasable, but the larger space that's behind the two-story space is more usable. So they're going forward with that. And then the buildings to the south, there's currently a couple tenants in there. There's some vacant space, and they'll probably be back at some time in the future as they try to position the rest of the property going forward. So we'll schedule a public hearing for Planning Commission next month. There's a few things that they might tweak on their drawings, but for the most part, they've gotten those in comments from staff, and then we'll move on to city council approvals from that perspective.
Okay, was there an intention to have any sort of presentation tonight, or is it because so much of it is we've already seen before?
Already seen, and usually it's just for the only action you have is to schedule the public hearing. So we'll go more in depth, I guess, at the evening on at the public hearing in March.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the commission?
I just have a question.
Good.
I'm reading the agenda correctly about the schedule, which I think was going to have some of this happen in February. So this is all pushed back to March.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We should have catched that. So we actually agendized everything for February, but unknowingly the newspaper changed their scheduling dates and things because of Martin Luther King Day, and they didn't notify anyone. You're supposed to just know when their schedule changes. So we had a bunch of public hearings that we were planning for March that had to get moved to, or for February that we had to move to March.
Thank you.
And they did get an updated email with that, but we didn't update the memo.
Any other questions? All right, we do have a recommendation from staff then that we direct staff to schedule a public hearing, most likely for the March meeting, but for as soon as they can get it scheduled, for the property at 5055 North Lydell Avenue. Can I get a motion, please?
Moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cohen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Story. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of directing staff to schedule a public hearing for the Plan Development District, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, move on now to our new business items. First is discussion and consideration of a business use for Lovely Incorporated doing business as Ward 3 Media at 7929 North Port Washington Road. And I will turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ward 3 Mayor is a company that does wedding videography and photography, and there are no zoning issues, and so it fits into that office complex very well. And I have nothing further to add unless you have questions.
Okay, is there somebody here representing the business? Hello, would you like to come up to the microphone, please?
Good evening.
State your name, please.
My name is Ben.
Okay, Ben, thank you for joining us tonight. Sometimes these opportunities, new businesses coming into town, it's an opportunity for us to get to know the business owner, find out a little about your business. So could you tell us a little about your business and how you happened upon Glendale as your location?
Yeah, there's plenty of office space available, as we all know, and this seemed to be the right fit for our size of operation. We've just got a couple employees looking for a space to do photo video editing. We've been doing wedding photo and video for 6 years now. So first office space for us. I live over in Fox Point, about 6 minutes away, so this was the right fit.
Thank you. Any questions from members? All right. Well, we do have a recommendation from staff. This business does fit the zoning already for the property. 7929, is that Bob Worth's property? Is that the building? Okay, perfect. All right, so we have a recommendation from staff that we grant business use approval for Lovely doing business as Ward 3 Media at 7929 North Port Washington Road. Can I get a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Story. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Oh, welcome to Glendale. Next is the consideration of scheduling a public hearing regarding a planned development district for general and specific development plans for Ms. Sharice Gardner at 1811 West Silver Spring Drive. And I will turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the course of reviewing things, John and I have here and there found that some parcels that were zoned planned development district lacked a development agreement. And so with this particular parcel, it was likely rezoned to planned development around 1995, 1996. The city officials at the time did not follow the procedures in the Code of General Ordinances, requiring a development agreement. And so when a parcel is zoned planned development without a development agreement, there is legally no land use, no legal land use. And so when discovering this upon a query from a prospective tenant of the property manager, we discovered this, and we've been working with the property owner to allow various uses. The building itself is an office building, and we worked with the current owner to determine her needs for the site and what she'd like to do in the future. And so she stepped up to the front, and you can see the uses right there in front of you. Basic office uses. The one thing that might be relatively unique is cooperative or office spaces, but due to the location and the site, I think all of these uses would be appropriate.
This is the parcel that's kind of in front of the Pick and Save, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a development agreement for the Pick and Save. but we didn't do a development agreement for the other structure that was built within the PD zone.
Correct. So what we've been able to figure out is Pick and Save had the development agreement back in the 90s. The senior housing that's behind the Pick and Save, that was developed at the same time. We have a development agreement for that. But the PD for this property, 1811, it doesn't appear, and speaking to former attorney Fuchs, he said during that time period, they would rezone larger areas, but not actually do the development agreement. So as long as a use stays, it's fine. But now in this situation, as she's trying to fill the building and do other things, that's sort of where we came to that point. There are a handful of these around the city that we found. One of them, for instance, was the old waste management building on Port Washington Road that is now going to be a daycare. We couldn't find that original agreement, and we redid a whole new one for that. They're supposed to be recorded, so even if we can't find them in our files, we should theoretically be able to find them at the Register of Deeds. And when we can't find them there and we dig around here for a while, that's usually when we get to the point. And if the property owner doesn't have a copy, then that's the conclusion we come to. So it's a little bit cumbersome for the new property owners, but we did try to help streamline it as much as we could.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Now I know you purchased this building a few years ago, right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, so what we did was it was kind of like not really like a land contract, like a lease to own situation. And so right now I'm in the process with.
Could I have you move the microphone a little closer?
I'm sorry, it's a use loan.
Okay.
That's like you kind of like back out of your lease, but it's kind of like that.
Okay. So, but you're essentially in charge of the property now and you're
That is
trying to
correct.
rent out the rest of the space.
That is
Okay.
correct.
And these other uses were totally fine within the current.
They're very similar to the other uses along the corridor. So in the
Right.
B3 or some of the B1s that are in the area. So it's not dissimilar. As Ken mentioned, this is not we find in the general code, but it's an office type use, but it's becoming more popular, and it might be given her building. It seems to make a lot of sense that there might be people in the area that just want a place nearby, kind of like the
Right.
last person who just wants a studio nearby 4 minutes away. So
Mr. Seligman?
I just have a question about the process for the city. I don't have any questions about the site itself, but so if I understand it, the zoning is the legislation and we updated the zoning with the master plan process just a couple of years ago. And then a PD is, I don't have an intuitive understanding of what a PD is that's not, if it's not legislation.
So you have your base zoning districts that are on a map that actually have the list of uses and the parameters and standards. Those are your B1s and B3s. And then you have planned development, and the intent of a planned development district is to allow greater flexibility on the behalf of the developer where standard zoning may not work if you have a more difficult site or something like that. But in return, the way the code reads, it's a number of sentences, but I could summarize it as but in return, the community would, have a higher level of standards of design and things like that. And so how you, as you read through that code, how you create that legislation instead of actually putting it into the zoning code as a district, you're actually creating this planned development district, which is recorded with the property and on file with the city. And that becomes the regulating ordinance with regard to uses and how the property would use. And so if, as time goes on, those could be amended or they just stay in place.
Okay, I might need an off meeting tutorial to understand that better. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll just piggyback on what John, what John said. In that when you were doing the comprehensive planning a few years ago, that's for what you would like to see, uses you'd like to see in the future. The zoning map reflects the current uses and what's allowed.
I'll ask for a tutorial later.
Any other questions for either staff or for Ms. Gardner? All right, so we do have a recommendation then that we direct staff to schedule a public hearing, most likely for the March 5th meeting. So can I get a motion then to have the public hearing scheduled? Moved by Commissioner Cohn, seconded by Commissioner Story.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you for having your business in Glendale, and sorry you ended up coming across, a decades old paperwork issue, but thank you for working with us to get it resolved, so. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. All right, the next two items actually are both residential items. And so the first one is for a site plan architecture review for a sunroom addition at 6251 North Sunny Point Road. And I will turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so the property owner here would like to build a four-season sunroom over what's an existing concrete patio. And I guess something what's unique about the property is it's sort of on an island surrounded by a floodplain. And so it's not pertinent, I guess. It's just something out of interest. But yeah, the sunroom addition would remain out of the floodplain. And John will pull up an image coming here, but yeah, it meets all the zoning code requirements.
All right. Turn it over then to members of the commission. Any questions? Yep, Commissioner Atwood.
Yeah, so there's no blocking anyone.
No, it's actually homes, are the properties around it, do they have homes on it, or are they some of the ones that were acquired in recent years?
No, I believe there are parcels, are there properties to the north and south. It shouldn't obstruct any river views or anything like that. They're fairly large parcels.
Any other questions? Yep, Commissioner Sullivan.
Yeah, really didn't understand how it's not in the floodplain. Is it because it's elevated where the house is and the lower parts of the property are in the floodplain?
That's correct. It's my understanding, talking with the property owner, that when she had the home built some time ago, that fill was brought in, so the structure would be above the floodplain. So you can see on the map right here, with the dot representing where the house is, and so it's very clearly out of the floodplain.
Really hard for a non-expert to read that map. So
I'm sorry.
Is that,
Yeah,
is that
so-
gray bit elevated above the brown bit?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
it's
what
the
that
gray.
means?
So the blue is the 1% or the 100-year floodplain. The yellow is the 500 or the 0.2% floodplain. The striped area is the floodway. And so during a flood event, the floodway is when there's moving water. And then in the technical term is flood fringe. That's the area where when there's so much water, it has nowhere to go and it just backs up. That's what we typically think of when we say floodplain.
What year was this house built?
Off the top of my head, I want to say it was the 70s.
And that area is really, is subject to flooding. I've seen historical pictures of flooding in that area, so I was just really surprised. I guess kudos to the owner for elevating the building.
There are a number of properties that are adjacent to the river that have been built up before the structures were put in place. And so you do have a number of, I mean, when you look at the floodplain map, you do have a number of these islands. I mean, they're right by the river and homes around them are in the floodplain, and yet these homes are slightly elevated. They're several feet up above others. And yeah, there's a number of those down south of Bender as well. Yeah. All right, any other questions from members of the commission? All right, so we do have a recommendation from staff. They've done their due diligence as well regarding the floodplain and floodway issues. And so the recommendation from staff is that we approve the site and architectural plan for the sunroom addition to 6251 North Sunny Point Road. So can I get a motion in that regard, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Fernandez. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Atwood. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Good luck with your building. Bye. The next one is a discussion and consideration of site plan and architecture review for a renovation and addition to a single-family home at 2345 West Marne. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so this is an approximate 700 square foot addition to the existing home. It would include a master bedroom, a walk-in closet, and another bathroom. The intention of the homeowner is to continue the existing siding and it'll more or less, I believe, reflect the current structure just with more living space. Now, and I should say another significant feature outside of the jurisdiction of the Plan Commission is that the existing kitchen will be moved further into the backyard and creating a large living room area, an open concept kitchen, and then there will be a sliding door from the kitchen to the backyard.
Thank you. Very nice. Okay, we'll turn it over to members of the commission. Any questions from the commission? I have to say, very unique. I assume you're the homeowners? Yeah, very unique plans. We have a number of homes. I live in Crestwood as well. We have a number of homes in Crestwood that have additions to them. And it's always interesting to where you can still allow for the setbacks from all the neighboring properties and squeeze an addition on. We actually have a former mayor that used to live in Crestwood that decided he couldn't do that. So he just added a second story to his house. It's one of the only 2-story houses in that back part where there's a lot of Crestwood, where there's a lot of mostly ranches. So, yeah, it's a much bigger undertaking. So, yeah, Mayor Heineck used to live there, and he had like 7 or 8 kids, and they needed more space, and so they went to the second story to be able to accommodate the entire family. So, I've been in that house actually. All right. So, any other questions from members of the commission? Okay, so staff have reviewed and have recommended to us that we grant approval of the site and architectural plan for the addition to 2345 West Marne Avenue. Can I get a motion to approve the addition? Please?
Mayor?
Yes.
I just had a quick question about like how much, like what's the current approximate value of the home? Like what how much percent, like I should say, let me rephrase this. When the home is renovated, will it be in the middle or low end or high end relative to other homes in the neighborhood?
We didn't get an assessment for that kind of thing. It would turn into a 4-bedroom, 2-bath and adding about 700 square feet to make it around, I believe, 2,250.
The largest houses in the neighborhood? Okay,
It would.
I don't know the neighborhood.
Yeah, no, the homes in Crestwood range from 2-bedroom homes to actually the former mayor's house is a 6-bedroom home. There are a number of 5-bedroom homes as well. So, I mean, they sort of run the gamut. Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right, can we get a motion then to approve the addition? Or do we have the motion already? Okay, I think I called for the motion and then Commissioner Atwood had raised his hand. Okay, can we get a motion then to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Atwood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bailey. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Do you have a timeline for construction?
We'll probably start in spring,
Okay,
and I believe it'll take about 8 to 12 months.
I've lived in the construction zone.
I also do it for a living, so I kind of know how it goes.
Okay. Any little kids?
Not yet.
Okay. That's the hardest thing is when you've got little kids and you're living in a construction zone. So,
Yep, we know.
oh, good luck. Actually, it's funny, we're doing a citywide reassessment this year, so you'll just miss out on that, but I'm sure we'll catch you next year. Because you will pull permits on all of this stuff.
Sure will.
All right. In answer to your question, it will improve, obviously, the value of the assessed value of the home. But in the year that we're doing the citywide assessment, they'll get spared this year, but by next year, And that doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes go up significantly because your value of your house goes up, because when everybody's value goes up, which is what is likely to happen this year with a citywide assessment, It just means that I'll be divided up pretty much how it's divided up now because everybody's value goes up, but yours may go up a little bit more the following year, so.
Yep, we also like our neighborhood. Crestwood is great, so we plan to stay here
Yeah.
for a while, so
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it.
great. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
It's an inside inspection. By is
The assessment, the assessment, this year's citywide assessment, if anyone has pulled permits and done work, there may be a request to come in and review interior work within the home. But typically, when you do a citywide assessment, it's largely just documenting all of the homes because most of them are pretty much the same as they were the last time we did a citywide assessment. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah. All right, and we just have one last item, and this is to approve the prairie landscaping for the property owned by the Orthopedic Hospital at the corner of Riverwoods Parkway and Port Washington Road. And turn over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so the Orthopedic Hospital previously came to this body for a site plan approval, and they're returning because they'd like to change the initial plan to the current one. And so the current plan would include the prairie grass, but it would have the addition of a stormwater retention pond and the associated infrastructure along with that. The difference between the current and the previous, or the approved one versus the requested one, is that there was no stormwater retention pond, and it had like a mode area which could serve as sort of a play area. And so and instead there will be trails going around the stormwater retention pond, and I believe part of the property will be mowed, but it'll be mostly prairie grass.
Thank you. And I see Mr. Sparber from Greenprint Partners. I'm assuming you're the one representing the Orthopedic Hospital tonight?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Okay. I was wondering if you could just, I guess, walk us through why the change? Was there a determination, was there a ruling from the DNR that you needed more stormwater capture, or was there a determination that it would just be better for the area? I'm just curious what the decision-making process was here.
Yeah, Greenprint Partners is the program manager for a Fresh Coast Green Communities program for the Metropolitan Sanitary District, the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sanitary District. And we are looking to increase storage throughout the sanitary district's boundaries. And this is an opportunity to do that. And I just wanted to clarify a little bit that this would be a bioretention facility, not a retention facility. So the water that comes into this basin will only be there for a short period of time. And then it will recede, and it'll be a vegetated basin. So stormwater quality is improved, stormwater storage is improved, and this is funded through an MMSD program.
All right, thank you. I will open up now to members of the commission. Any questions, from members of the commission? Commissioner Seligman.
It's actually a comment, not a question. I just wrote the section about this parcel for the 75th anniversary history book, and I really appreciate the staff pulling the paragraph from the newspaper article about this site. This is a really interesting and complex site, and this is a much better use of the property than, for example, we saw in the 1950s.
Thank you.
Could you tell me the depth of the retention pond?
In terms of the water that would be retained there,
Yes.
1.5 feet is the maximum depth, and then it would recede within 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
The native prairie plantings that were in the original concept and the no-mow grasses, those were not sufficient to capture rainwater. So you needed an additional basin as well for when there's a heavy storm. Is that the thinking here?
Well, it's just we can do more and do a little better in terms of the volume, so we can capture more water, and we can treat it a little bit better. More volume gets treated before it goes out into the waterways.
Okay, thank you. By the way, I'm an MMSD commissioner, so I appreciate the work that you're doing here. So,
Thank
all
you.
right. Other questions from members of the commission? All right, so we do have now a revised plan from the Orthopedic Hospital. And we do have a recommendation from staff that we approve the revised prairie landscape to include a bioretention pond at 575 West Riverwoods Parkway. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Seligman. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Story. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sparber. Appreciate you coming tonight and explaining the process.
Thank you.
The new designs to us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes all the business we had on our agenda for this evening. Our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 5th, here in this room at 6 p.m. All right, do you have any announcements for us at all, Mr. Fellows, Mr. Smith?
Not-
Okay,
Me neither.
all right. Can I get a motion then to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Atwood, seconded by Commissioner Cohn. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.